Good morning, good evening, friends. Welcome to my channel, Ek Kitab Se Ek Moti, in which I select a gem or a pearl from a book and then I try to present them in modern context and terminology so that you can use these gems and pearls in your life and through their practical application, transform your life in a positive way. So, today I was going through one of my books and I came across a very interesting thing mentioned about a man called Hank McCamish. Now, I don't know whether I'm pronouncing the surname correctly. So Hank McCamish was considered one of the most self-organized men of his time, and the author of this book, John Edmund Haggai, met this man and had a long discussion with him about what made him a successful man of his time. So Hank McCamish told the author of this book, I'll just mention the name of the book in a moment. So Hank McCamish told John Edmund Haggai that the reason why he was so successful and he was so self-organized and he had earned so much money was that he designed an information retrieval system for himself. So he was an inventor of his own system and he used it so effectively in his business that he was able to make millions of dollars because of that simple information retrieval system. I mean, he had to spend a lot of money on that, but the idea was simple. So that's what we are going to talk about in this video, about certain simple inventions and whether you can also do something like that in your life and to change your life for the better. So let me first read the portion that I have selected for the day. So Hank McCamish was the most self-organized man the author had ever known. So let me first show you the book. So this is the book, Success Secrets of the Bible. The subtitle is 13 Profound Principles That Will Change Your Life, and this has been written by John Edmund Haggai. Haggai, some people pronounce it as Haggai or Haggai. Haggai, I think that's the standard pronunciation. So John Edmund Haggai wrote another book which is a bestseller. It's a book on conquering worry, and in that he mentions one thing. I'll make a video on that book as well, but in that he mentions one thing and I'll just share with you that tip. So he says that one way of conquering worry is that you master at least one field. So you become a master of that field so that in that field you are unbeatable or you are at the top. So that's that's one way of conquering worry or winning over worry, because when you are really good at what you're doing, you'll feel confident, and especially you'll be rest assured about your financial security, because if you're a master of at least one activity or one field, your income is kind of secure. But yeah, you need to continue to upgrade your skills and knowledge in that area, but your aim should be to be at the top of your field. Now let me read this portion. So I've just edited the first part a bit so that it kind of flows well with the rest of the paragraph. So Hank McCamish was one of the most self-organized man the author had ever known. One day, a group of his peers, that is the peers of Hank McCamish, one day a group of his peers got together to discuss information retrieval. They knew they could go to a library and find anything they wanted, usually in minutes. Offices, though, were a different thing. Important information regularly got buried and lost. They decided to do some research and come up with an improved information retrieval program. In time, all of the other men fell away. But Hank was determined to find a solution. He spent a fortune on research and development and came up with the best retrieval system of its generation. Later on, the author met him at the airport, and this is what he says. So he had a 2 hour discussion with Hank McCamish about organization, and during the conversation, this is what Hank said. On this occasion, he told me that the single greatest component of his achievement was organization. That is, he was referring to his information retrieval system. So this, the portion I read, comes under this title or heading, Organize for Excellence. So this is what we are going to discuss now. Now, if you have ever gone to a library, you'll see that they have these Dewey Decimal System, or they have different ways of retrieving the books. So, for example, if you're looking for a book on any subject, you just need to see what the numbers are, and you just feed that number into the computer, and you'll get the details of the books. Or if you just let the librarian know, you can retrieve that book. So they have these numberings. You will see these numbers here. I mean, there's a term for this part of the book. I'm just unable to recall now. So here, at the bottom usually, or here, you'll have those numbers. They'll have some kind of label stuck here or here, and there you'll have the number, which is a way of organizing that book in the library, so that out of these thousands or lakhs of books, millions of books, they have a unique numbering system, so that they are able to access the book for you very easily. So if you go to the library and let the librarian know what book you're looking for, they'll usually find it using this numbering system, which is a way of organizing information. So Hank McCamish decided to come up with some kind of information retrieval in his own office, so that vital information related to their customers or related to their past performance was not lost. So these fellows joined together and started doing the investigation, but some of them fell away. I mean, they kind of they stopped their efforts before they achieved success. But Hank was determined, so he continued. He was determined to find a solution. So he did spend a fortune on that, but the idea is that he didn't give up, and he kept looking for a solution, and he designed or invented or found the best information retrieval system of his generation. And that Hank McCamish considered this system to be the single greatest component of his achievement. I was watching an interview of John Edmund Hagee, in which he mentions that when he had a long discussion with Hank McCamish, Hank told the author that he had made millions and millions and millions of dollars because of that single information retrieval system. So let's carry this discussion forward. So why don't you invent or design or kind of create or prepare your own information retrieval system? I mean, there's so much we learn. We listen to things on YouTube, and then there are certain thoughts that we get sometimes, some very great ideas. So we also listen to some of our friends discussing, and suddenly an idea kind of pops up or flashes in our mind, and that is it. The discussion ignites an idea or a concept in our minds, or we get ideas from books, from our discussions with others. So, I mean, there are so many sources of information, not just books or people, but also from our observation. I mean, that's how Newton was, he saw the apple falling from the tree, and then he thought of gravitation, right? And Einstein thought of someone falling from a building, a construction worker, I think, if I'm not mistaken. He was observing a construction worker working at a building, and then he just imagined that what if the construction worker fell down from there. And when he imagined that, he felt that the person will not feel the effect of gravity at all. And there was a major reason why he came up with his general theory of relativity. So what I'm trying to say is we have we get these great ideas from different sources, but is there a system that we have for ourselves where we can store all this great information and then later retrieve them whenever we need them? So why don't you come up with your own information retrieval system? I think that makes life exciting, right? I'm thinking of thinking of inventing something. So that's one thing that I wanted to mention in this video, that is, you think of inventing your own information retrieval system. I mean, it's okay to get information from others and get all these systems from others, learn from others, attend seminars, read books, listen to YouTube videos, just like mine, you're listening to mine. But there is a greater joy in coming up with things of our own imagination and creativity. So use your creativity and invent your own information retrieval system. And especially for students who learn a lot of things, I mean, they spend a lot of time on books and labs, laboratory and classes and so on. And so they have a lot of information that they are acquiring. So they too should think of a simple way of retrieving information. So if the teacher asks, could you tell me something about a certain concept, then some kind of number or some kind of system should get into your head, and then you just easily are able to recall that information. Now I'll mention this cartoon character, or we used to have these comic books, right, when I was a kid. So we used to read these Chacha Chaudhary comics, I think comic strips. So I'm not sure whether it's plural or it's always used in plural, or can we use the singular term? I'm not sure. So these comics, right? So we used to read the story of Chacha Chaudhary and how his brain functioned like a computer. So for most of the occasions, he used to have some kind of formula number. So he used to say, okay, to solve this problem, I have this formula. So in a way, he was kind of retrieving that information. So he had thought of some kind of information retrieval system, so that when the occasion arose, he was able to use that information retrieval and get the information, the idea that helped him solve a particular problem. So why don't you also invent your own retrieval system? Now I got this idea from one of the seminars I attended. So I attended a personality development training program conducted by Dr. Francis Xavier, who is no more. Actually, he passed away a few years ago during the corona pandemic. So he taught us the mental filing system. So that is a way of storing numbers in our heads using images and some combination of images. So numbers become images in that system. So I'm not going to reveal the system, because unless I have the permission of his son, I think Dennis Xavier was his son who also came in the training program. So I can check with him if he's okay with my sharing this information with my audience or my listeners. So if he's okay, I'll share it with you, and I'll make a video on the mental filing system and how it can help you remember numbers, phone numbers, any kind of number actually. It can help you remember numbers. So that's the idea I got from attending that seminar, that there is a way of inventing certain things for ourselves, and it makes us happy, right? I mean, when we design something that's very unique and it's very useful for us, and then later on we can share it with others as well. So he did the same. He designed his own mental filing system and he shared it with us, and we reaped the benefit of that. And then the other thing is, think of inventing at least one thing in your lifetime. So in your life goals or in your goal setting notebook, just add one more goal saying you will invent at least one simple thing, not a big thing actually, but at least one thing in your lifetime, because we are so grateful to all these inventors. I mean, someone who invented the wheel or the tube of the wheel, I remember reading the story of John Dunlop, I think, if I'm not wrong, how he invented the tube for the wheel. Like bicycles of those days didn't have these tubes, right? Like the tube for the tire, right? You have these tubes. So John Dunlop, I think he had this garden hose pipe, I don't know what it's called. So he kind of cut it and then kind of rolled it around the wheel of the bicycle of those days, and he made this for his son, and later on he came up. I mean, he kind of established his own company. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I remember that story. It was a long time ago during my school days. And the other thing is, not all inventions need to be on a grand scale. So not every invention need to be of the same kind. I mean, it should have the same revolutionary impact as that of Einstein's theory or Newton's theory, or any other maybe theories of Richard Feynman, or some of these great physicists, Stephen Hawking or Roger Penrose. I mean, what I'm saying is, you can make simple inventions, just like a pencil, for instance. It's such a useful thing, and we all make use of that. And there are so many other things, like you have sticky notes, you have these bookmarks, all these simple inventions. So think of inventing something simple as well, not something on a grand scale. Not necessarily, I mean, if you can invent something on a grand scale, that's great, but think of inventing something simple. So this is what I wanted to discuss today. So let me recapitulate. So think of inventing your own information retrieval system, just like Hank McCamish did, and try to come up with your own mental filing system for remembering numbers. Now, this is something I'll maybe talk about in another video. So based on that, you can create your own mental filing system for remembering numbers. Think of inventing at least one thing in your lifetime. Not all inventions need to be on a grand scale. And think of inventing something simple. I mean, think of inventing something complicated if you want to, but also think of inventing something simple. I hope you like this video. Thanks a lot.